Welcome into the PFF NFL Daily today. Sam, we're just going to discuss our favorite players. Players who
Cool.
deserve some love. Some unsung players. They could be hashtag fun to watch. I don't care. It's Christmas Eve. We're going to have a lot of fun. Merry Christmas Eve to everybody. We're going to have some fun and give some guys some love. One of our listeners suggested we show some love to some unheralded players. So we're going to use the PFF grades and the data to highlight players who need a little bit more love. So Sam, do you want to start or do you want me to jump right into one of my favorite players?
Well, you can go. You got a guy all queued up. Let's hear it.
I do, and I mentioned this before the show, and you said, no, that's my guy, so we'll fight over him. But it's Jordan Milotta, the starting tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. I love the story because anytime you could take a chance on a rugby player and it works out, it's incredible. The payoff is incredible, and you love rugby, even Australian rules. So Milotta has turned into one of the better tackles in the NFL, and it's just an incredible story that he's even gotten to this point.
You don't even know what sport he played, do you? Australian rules rugby? No, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
You've combined two different sports and ended up with something that doesn't actually exist. He played rugby league in Australia, not Aussie rules football, which is a completely different sport, and not Aussie rules rugby, which doesn't exist as a thing.
Start the show over. Start it over. I can't have that kind of mistake on my record.
Jordan Mailata, a rugby league player.
That's what I said.
Yeah. Who looked like a dominant force in rugby league when he was playing, takes up football a couple of years ago, barely played anything, and is now one of the best left tackles in the NFL and is getting better. Like, that's the thing. They've given him a big money contract extension, and he just continues to look better and better. His technique is developed. He's maintained that freakish size and strength and just ridiculous athleticism, and he's dominating people.
Yeah, and what he did last year, he's progressed every year, but last year he was one of the best in the league at adding positively graded run blocks, but he was still whiffing a lot, still missing a lot of blocks, but he's cut down on that this year. So one of the highest run blocking grades in the entire NFL, improved in pass protection, and again, I love team building stories like that. If you can steal a starting tackle from a project like that, I think it's just a huge win for the Eagles, and it's been hashtag fun to watch because you have a guy who literally did not know how to play football, and we've watched him progress from the preseason a few years ago now into one of the best tackles of the league.
All right, we've talked about him a little bit already, but I think it's worth re-bringing up later in the season, even if he hasn't sort of kept the insane standard from earlier in the year. Casey Hayward, I still think, has been one of the biggest impact additions to any defense in the NFL. Went to the Raiders, looked like he was absolutely done by the end of his time with the Chargers. Raiders pick him up for virtually nothing, and he's been a really good corner for them. He still has only given up one touchdown, doesn't have an interception to his name, but he's only giving up 54% of passes thrown his way have been caught. They're not going for a huge amount of yardage. He's given up less than 300 yards all season long. Like, Casey Hayward has been a big part of the bounce back that the Raiders defense did have, even if that's gone off the rails a little bit later in the year.
Yeah. And look, I think when you look at it, it's a guy that just continued to exceed expectations his entire career, right? I mean, he actually graded well in Green Bay and they just didn't want him. And he looked like maybe just a slot corner for a while, then found a home in that old Seattle cover 3 under Gus Bradley with the Chargers, just had the one bad year. And now he's back, right? I mean, he's back and being the most valuable corner in the NFL among potential free agents. So he's going to hit free agency again. And we'll see. I don't know how coveted he'll be because I think he's had most of his recent success within that same system. But there's value in that, right? And what happens is the Raiders didn't make a ton of splash moves in the offseason. But when you have a move like that, where it's low risk and you get this incredible payout, you look back and say, okay, yeah, Casey Hayward's he was one of the most important signings in the entire offseason because of what he's brought to the table for the Raiders. 'Tis the season of giving, and you got one more day here. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. They're giving you a Christmas present you won't want to re-gift. New customers could bet just $5 on any of the 4 NFL teams playing on Christmas, and you win $150 in free bets if they're victorious. Win some green, put some extra jingle in your pocket. Sportsbook, if it's not available in your state, your Christmas can still be merry. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Football Contest, and DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $5 on any NFL team to win on Christmas Day and win $150 in free bets if they're victorious. It's promo code PFF this Christmas at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, you had mentioned Zach Sealer from the Miami Dolphins, interior defensive lineman, having a really good year as kind of an unsung hero in one of our shows the other day. But his partner in crime is Christian Wilkins up front, who's played more snaps, similar grade, 83.6. Wilkins was a first-round pick, so it's not like nobody knows about him, but it's taken him 3 years to kind of break out and be that guy. He was the first pick of the new regime over there in Miami a couple of years ago. Brian Flores, their first pick, supposed to set the tone. And Wilkins, I think, finally coming around as a good run defender, 80 grade there, 71 pass rush grade. Those are both career highs. And, of course, one Lambeau leap, the most important stat. So got to give some love to Christian Wilkins.
Yeah, one Lambeau leap and one receiving touchdown. Don't forget that. Like, we are talking about an impact playmaker here from the fullback position, as well as everything he does on the defensive line. Yeah, he's a big part of that Miami Dolphins kind of turnaround on defense. Probably also benefits a little bit from some of the competition they've gone up against. But, these are the way of things this season. I'm going to stick with cornerbacks, though. We went into this year and all the additions in the Cleveland Browns secondary, and it was like, wow, this has the potential to go anywhere, right? It could be an amazing turnaround because of all the new bodies they've added. It could be a disaster if none of them work out, or it could be somewhere in the middle. And I think they've trended closer to being a perfect turnaround and being a really good unit. But those guys have been banged up a lot. Like, they've all missed time. Denzel Ward, I think, has missed time. Greg Newsome, their first round rookie, has missed time. So they've kind of leaned on Greedy Williams coming in, or not coming in, Greedy Williams, who was there already, a second round pick back in 2019, who hadn't played a lot, who'd been injured. They've kind of leaned on him a lot more this season, and he's been really good. Like, he's obviously having a career year for him, which is basically just better than the 1 year he played. But he's played some pretty good football, has given up one touchdown on 52 targets this season, made a lot of plays on the ball, 6 pass breakups, a couple of interceptions, giving up a passer rating of 72. The fact that Greedy Williams has actually gotten significant playing time in relief of all these injured guys and played up to a good standard does give the Browns all of a sudden that embarrassment of riches at a position that was a nightmare for them last year.
Yeah, it's too bad it's not necessarily showing in wins, but I thought that was part of the really good offseason strategy that the Browns put together. And every time I read their depth chart aloud when we were on the show this offseason, saying, hey, they've got Denzel Ward, they just drafted Greg Newsome, and we really don't know what Greedy Williams is yet. He was always a first-round talent who went in the second round and just had that 1 year under his belt. So that is the value of seeing depth in the secondary, building depth in the secondary, not just for injuries, but also, it was almost like a toss-up. Is it going to be Greg Newsome? Could it be Greedy Williams? Who's it going to be? But they've needed both guys this year. So I like that Greedy Williams pick there. One other guy I want to highlight is a guy that we have highlighted in the past, Matt Filer. How about him going to the Chargers? He was one of our favorite free agent pickups only because he was just a guy that always graded well for us in our system for the Pittsburgh Steelers, playing right tackle, playing left guard. Well, he's played guard for the Chargers. And now, as much as we liked him going in, he's posting a career high grade. Overall, from a run blocking standpoint, only giving up 18 pressures this year, which is a good, solid number. And look, the Chargers' offensive line, it's not completely turned around, but that left side is turned around with him, Filer, and Rashaan Slater, their first-round pick.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good pickup just in terms of value. Really low-cost move that was almost certainly going to upgrade whichever spot along the offensive line they were going to play him, whether it was a guard or whether it was at right tackle. For the Steelers, I think he'd always been actually a better tackle than he was a guard. So I didn't know if it was going to be that big an upgrade, but with the value and the sort of low starting point that Chargers offensive line was coming from, it was a great move, whatever. They've kept him at left guard all season long, and he's having a career year there. He's actually playing fantastically at guard, probably better than he's ever played before at either position. And they've kept him there despite actually having a hole at right tackle, right? They've been plugging away with Storm Norton at right tackle. They could have done with an upgraded tackle, but you can't hate on what Filer's doing right now, which is, along with Corey Linsley and Rashaan Slater, just massively upgrading what has been not just a problem spot, but a problem unit for the Chargers for a decade more.
So we're just spreading that holiday cheer here on Christmas Eve, and I want our listeners to get in on the action as well. So if you don't have a PFF subscription, you can get one right now. You can use PFF. You can use NFL Pod for 25% off any subscription. You can use a lead up for 50% off, and you can go in and do what I did. Use Premium Stats, look around, and find your favorite unsung player. Spread some holiday cheer by telling us the player that you love, that you want to give some love to here in the Christmas season. Merry Christmas.